and get started and just let people in as we go. I am recording this, so for those that do chime in later, I will be able to get the recording to you as we go. This is meant to be sort of an informative little quick hit as to accessibility, why it's important. I wanted to kind of time this with the whole mindset of Cyber Monday. We had Black Friday not too long ago, and why this is important is really, it's up to you. That's really the mindset, but I wanted to give some information that's really kind of maybe kind of help set your mindset as you move your business forward. Trying to give you an idea of why you can start thinking about things, whether you're a governmental agency or a non-governmental agency, why you should be thinking about digital accessibility in your space. Okay, so that is the overview. So I'm going to go to the first set of slides. We're going to do the why. I'll do a question and answer after each one, but I don't want this to go much deeper than like maybe 30 minutes or so total for my presentation. I want to leave plenty of time for question and answers. So that's really what I want to be able to do. And I'll bring myself on camera for that part. But right now, I just want to kind of leave it about the information more than anything else because, you know, I love seeing myself on camera, but you guys don't need to see me, honestly. I'm really here, I promise. So let's start with the why. Let me share my screen with you. So, we're going to start with the digital accessibility why, ensuring organizations achieve and maintain digital compliance. There's always got to be a reason, and I know I've been through enough startup stuff and enough new business stuff. There's got to be a compelling reason why we do things. And really, when it comes down to the whole mindset of why I started this, it was a passion. Passion projects for me are really a big thing, and that's what should drive just about anything. But it's got to be a passion for everybody. And what I recognized right out of the gate is I can't sell accessibility to people. I can't sell digital accessibility. What it comes down to is where you feel and why it should be important. So here's some reasons in my brain that really made it click. U.S. consumers will spend nearly $933 billion on e-commerce in 2021. So if you think about today being Cyber Monday, that's a lot of money being spent. All right, a whole lot of money being spent. That's one way to look at it. The U.S. population identifies as disabled. This is where it really came home for me. 1 in 5 people in our country are identified as disabled. Now that's interesting to me because that makes them the largest minority group. Now, I like to look at that as a standpoint of you can look at me and identify me as I'm a minority, but you can't look at me and say, oh, Marty, you look like you're ADHD. You look like you've got major depressive disorder. Well, those are also disabilities. So these are people that are also affected by how they access information digitally. So really, they're the largest minority group that's out there is people with disabilities. 1 in 5. 61 million people. Something else to think about, their sphere of influence, friends and family with an emotional connection to a disability, 105 million. So that means that somebody really is touched by, either you're touching someone or somebody you know or a friend of somebody that you know has a disability. They may not share it with you, but they're affected by. But the big one is here, purchasing power. Whether you've got a good service or something that relates to what people are doing online, how are they accessing it? Whether it's a government, yes, I focus on government, but literally it's regular business too. It's regular interaction. It's got to be in the mindset of like my passion is, it's like buying a car. You got to put gas in the car. You just don't buy the car and put it in the garage and just access it one day. You want to drive it around. People with disabilities, they want to interact with you, but are you in the mindset of wanting to interact with them? That's really the mindset. Now, what I try to stay away from is the dark side, okay? I don't want to get into this from a consultant side to scare you, okay? But this is where it can end up if you leave yourself to what I tell people tends to happen most of the time. You leave it to the vendors, you leave it to the vendor reps. They'll come in and base it on what will tend to happen is you'll get a letter in the mail. Now, I tend to not go too deep into this because I stopped at 2018 because realistically the numbers just keep going up. This is litigation. This is people being sued because they're not digitally accessible. federal lawsuits. Starts on the East Coast. We're talking Florida, New York. It's big in California right now. Is it big in Oregon? Not really, not yet. But like I told people when I worked in telecom, you don't want to wait until it's broken. You want to be proactive. You want to be able to make it an elective decision before it's a directive. Because realistically, you don't want people to see it as a problem. Hold on one second. Someone's having trouble getting in. So let me just do this. And put it here. Paste. Good thing I left my LinkedIn on. And I can be a passcode too. Okay, I think I should give them the passcode. Yeah, it did. Okay. Okay, so point being is litigation. We're a litigious state. We're a litigious country. It's the whole laws behind digital accessibilities. There are laws on the books in Congress to make it a federal law for people to make sure that things are accessible digitally. But it takes forever. But since again, we're a country where we can sue anybody civilly, there are still ways for things to happen. Ask Pizza Hut, ask Winn-Dixie, ask some of the major retailers that have been sued. Personal injury attorneys are having a heyday right now. They can find free scanners on the internet, and they will go and they will scan websites. They'll do audits, and they'll find lines of code, and they'll find errors, and they'll send out demand letters. And if people don't understand what that means, they'll actually send out a demand letter and threaten litigation. Don't do it out of fear. So the why relates to it's out there. It's available to you. The people are there. They need help. They're the largest population as far as people with disabilities. Like I said, I'm ADHD. Didn't even realize till I got in the space that I'm part of the space. The reality is they just want to do business. They have to do workarounds more than it would take us to just do simple upgrades. On my own website, I did a simple upgrade on my website just to make it digitally accessible. Is it the only thing I could do? It's not the only thing I can do, but it's a start. It's just a start for now. So realistically, take a chance, start doing things now. So that's the first like 15 minutes or so. Well, I guess that was only 10. So I'm going to stop sharing and come on camera with the three that are here. I saw Heather just came in. Are there any questions for right now for you folks that are here?
I'm so sorry that I'm late, Martin. I had
Okay,
difficulty joining the meeting.
no problem. I'm recording it, so I can send you copies of what I did. No worries.
That would be wonderful.
Let me. I can go over some of the questions that I've had before. One question that I did have before is, let's see, why is digital accessibility important to my organization? Accessibility is critical to enable organizations to improve experience for all users. It's like I was trying to say, Heather, this is right before you came on. What I'm trying to ensure more than anything else is that I'm not selling accessibility. I'm not selling the whole mindset of you've got to do it, you've got to do it. I'm trying to help people figure out what's the right steps to take. Because if it's not important to an organization that accessibility is important for everyone, then I'm coming at it from the wrong conversation. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but without having like a guide or a sage or someone to kind of help figure out the direction, it makes it sort of tough figuring out which way to go. So that's just something that I try to allow myself for, is to just be that guide. Another question that I had from the last one I did, um, how should I approach accessibility testing? Like I do audits. I don't do any repair, but I can do audits to show people what's wrong. Here's some things that are wrong. I can make simple suggestions as far as where to go to get things done, but audits can be done by just about anyone that has the ability to scan a website and find the code errors. Realistically, I tell people that's the place to start. is find a way to get it done yourself before jumping too deep into the deep waters. So that is that. Okay, you guys all see that?
Mhm.
Okay, great. So we're just going to go through just some of the basic terminology getting into this space because I like to equate digital accessibility and all the things surrounding it to my time working as a pharmaceutical rep. I jumped into that space without any background history, without any kind of formal training, and had to learn a whole new dialogue to talk to medical professionals. It's learning a lot of terminology. It's learning how to understand exactly what the problem is, learning what the indications were, the patient types. It kind of is the same kind of mentality when it comes to digital accessibility, strangely enough. So, what does it mean exactly? What is it and who decides? So some terms to know are WCAG, WC3, Digital Accessibility Certification, Section 508. Those are the big hot ones that are really more important to really get your brain around depending on whether you're a public agency or a private business. Now, when it comes to accessibility itself, what that relates to is that the websites, tools, and technology are designed and developed so that people with disability can use them. Specifically, they've got to be navigable, usually tab navigable. Most people that have disability will have some sort of tool to navigate through a website, and what tends to make websites unnavigable for most people is just the way they're designed. And people can't tab through them to be able to use them, or there's pictures that don't have text. So the just simple things can be done, or the text isn't the right size, or it's not the right font, point size, so it blends into the background. Little things that can be done can be fixed with just having an audit done. So some of the things that the way the content is, it's got to match these criteria for auditory, cognitive, neurological, physical, speech, and visual. Those are the things for the content that relate to accessibility for website content. Okay, Caitlin's back. Okay, now there's something that's out there. There's a difference between certification. There's a difference between certification and compliance and conformance and certification. Now, if some people that are looking for help, a lot of times they fly into the mindset of they'll Google, they find a vendor that will set them up for certification. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. I'm just going to tell you it's not always necessarily the first thing you have to do. A certification agency is someone who is certified as an auditor through the WCAG that can manually go through and check lines of code line by line to make sure that everything is the way it's done. Now, they'll make sure that they'll check the lines, but they're not going to do the remediation. They'll have you have a coder who's qualified change the errors to make sure that they meet the code, meet the actual guidelines. The website content accessibility guidelines, or WCAG, WCAG, those are very specific. So we have agencies, there's like maybe 4 or 5 or maybe 6 really good ones here in the United States that do a really good job of having manual coders go through and check these things line by line by line. Now, the unfortunate nature, and this is where I say unfortunate for the sense of people just getting into the space where they feel they have to get something done. I don't challenge the mindset of capitalism. Capitalism's great, that's fantastic, but if you're a business and you don't know, is certification the first step? Well, it doesn't have to be, because sometimes that certification point, since it's unregulated, it can be anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, and you don't know which one's the better one. And really, the mindset is there really is not a mindset of which one's the better one. It's like, which one can you really jump into? So, and it comes down to the whole mindset of what steps you're going to take. I always say, err on the side of doing something versus nothing. Digital accessibility is a moving target, but there's got to be a passion behind, again, going back to what I said in the first presentation. Why? Why are we doing this? Do you think it is important to make sure that you are digitally accessible for everyone? That's where it comes down for importance to me. I want everyone in the world to be digitally accessible. So accessibility versus certification. Let's look at some of the terminology behind that. So you have the EC and the W3C. These are the European Commission and the World Wide Web Consortium. These two groups are what come together and they set the guidelines for the WCAG. Like I said, a lot of letters. So what that makes is a standardized group of people that say, hey, all right, let's get together and make this simple. All right, we're going to make this simple and say everything is going to be one big, just standardized book of code that everybody can just go to. Let's make it simple for everybody. So they get together on a regular basis and they put out versions for people to go to. Okay, so that's a good thing. There's always one, I guess you want to say, one reference manual for everybody to check. That makes it simple for these certification agencies and even some of the artificial intelligence tools. Like I have one myself that can actually go to a website, check for errors based on those guidelines. Now they change, which is good. The tool changes with it. And the WCAG, again, is globally recognized for the consensus of what is accessible and what's acceptable for content guidelines. So, one standard. Now, the good thing here in the United States, 508 was that policy that relates to government standards. So, as you see, we get here WCAG versus 508. The cool thing is the website guideline 2.0 is what's important right now. That's the most common one on the table. 508 is the government compliance version of it. But as I said, government moves at the speed of molasses. But what they did do not too long ago is they adopted, meaning our federal government adopted the WCAG guidelines. So, thank goodness, once they get it out of Congress and into law, it'll be the same standards globally that the United States will be following as well. So that's a good thing for those that are be thinking about hiring people or whatever the case may be when it comes to making sure that they're following code to the right standard. So, closing. Digital assets right now are vulnerable. That's why I'm doing this, because when it comes to the mindset of what I try to do as a consultant is I want to prepare people for now, not if, but when. My passion has always been education when it comes to working with business and government and working with anybody on a one-on-one basis. I want you to be prepared. And digital accessibility is a constantly moving target. Going back to my example of the car. If you buy a car, you're going to need gas, you're going to need new tires, you're going to need a new oil filter at some point in time. Scheduled regular maintenance. If you can think about yourself as a business, that's the whole mindset of going into business or being an organization, whatever the case may be. There's going to be regular things that you've got to calculate in. But if you can be proactive with the mindset of digital accessibility, this is just one thing that you can just put into your mindset. It's going to be there. It's not going away, but you get the chance to be elective with it before it becomes a directive. This way, you can start planning your way with it. That means you can start figuring, okay, maybe right now I do a widget. I do something that just gives me access, helps me do some remediation, helps fix my page for now. And then maybe later I'll do some kind of certification when I do a new website if I go that far. Like for me, like I say, on my page, it's just my business. I'm not that large right now, so I have a widget. Until I grow, then I'll go to a certification company and let somebody else take care of it. But right now it's just me, but that's my growth plan. So the whole mindset is have a plan for access, because there's people out there that want to do business with you. They need your services, they need your help, but they just can't get there. And the large population of people that are disabled are kind of getting tired of having to do workarounds. We need to work around so we can just help them. So that's me. That's all my contact information. I'll also put it in the chat. But like I said, I wanted to keep this really short and tight to like 30 minutes or so, which I think I was able to do. So let me put myself back here on camera. I will stop sharing and